Hey guys, it's Mike Sexton. I wanted to make a little video showing just some cards from my collection. Been watching a lot of videos from John Mangini, Lou Rops, Blue Jacket 66, Chris Sewell, Pepino Man, Jay Stottlemyre 1, vintage oddball cards, and y'all just kind of inspired me. And I love the hobby. I love collecting. Of course, just like all kids that grew up in the 80s and 90s, I had a junk wax collection. And one of the favorite things for me to do was when Mom got home from the grocery store is to go through all the groceries looking for those 1990 Donruss packs that were probably 3 for $1 or a couple for $1. And she, most of the time they'd be in there. And all that stuff, kind of started me off. And then about 10 years ago, I started, with a goal of trying to get one graded card from every person in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And they add new ones each year, and there's some that's really expensive that, I've not been able to get, especially in the last couple years. But some of them I picked up, 10 years ago, like this Jackie Robinson over here. This card here I picked up, 10 years ago for I think $88. It's probably worth $400 now. So, I couldn't even, back then things were different. I wasn't spending a lot of cash on cards, but I just love the hobby, and it's my thing. I want to kind of get all the people in the Hall of Fame that I can. I want to try to complete that set. I've heard there's some players there's not very many known cards, and but that's my goal. That's my goal. I'm gonna go as far as I can, and not go crazy, spend a bunch of crazy money on it, but that's the goal for my collection. So I just picked like 10 of my oldest cards to start on, and picked out some cool facts about the players I wanted to share. So this first card is a T206, Vic Willis. His nickname, the Delaware Peach. In 1902, he pitched in 51 games, 45 complete games, and then 3 of the games he also had saves in. So 48 games he either had saves or had a save, or 45 complete games. Finished the season with a 2.2 ERA. He was the last pitcher to throw a no-hitter in the 1800s. I talked about that 1902 season where he pitched, 45 complete games. You can see this card. I love the little, it's a defect when you get it graded, but you can tell when these were collected. You can see the rubber band or string marks on the back of this card. Condition wasn't everything. They'd rather have the whole set, as to have, one card in a 10. They'd rather have, the whole set in 3s and 4s. So I'd say that's why this one got an authentic, or because of that stain on the front. So grade really don't matter to me. I like, I just like the cards, and that's all that really matters. So 1902, he had a awesome season, 2.2 ERA. But 1903 to 1905 for the Boston Beaneaters, over those 3 seasons, he went 42 and 72. I guess the Beaneaters couldn't hit very well back in the day. So, but he had a 3.02 ERA in those 3 years, which is pretty awesome. But he went 42 and 72 in those 3 years with 3.02 ERA. He'd win the Cy Young now. So, and last year he played was 1910. This card is dated to 1911. His last year was 1910 St. Louis. So I'm not sure if this came out like at the beginning of the season. They anticipated him to play, or it actually came out in 1910. But the date says 1911, but his last year was 1910. So that's that card. The next card is going to be probably somebody over history who hasn't got enough recognition in the hobby, and that's Mr. Sam Crawford. You can see him in the middle here. Yeah, I was kind of surprised myself when I started looking up some facts on him. He has Major League Baseball record, 309 triples. 309 triples over 10,625 at-bats. That is unreal. Second is Ty Cobb with 295 triples over 13,000 at-bats. Third is Honus Wagner, 252 triples over 11,766 at-bats. So that's pretty awesome. I don't think he gets the recognition, that he should in the hobby. So he also holds a record for 12 inside the park home runs in a season. So this guy must have been a burner. He must have been very fast. You can see him in the middle there sliding in to the base. So and he's second all time in inside the park home runs with 51. So he played on the Tigers with the famous Ty Cobb. They had a kind of a feud or a real heavy rivalry. Cobb would always say, yeah, he's good, but he's second best on his team. Cobb would accused him later on in his career of fouling pitches off just so Cobb couldn't steal bases. Sam Crawford was very, very fast, had a lot of stolen bases. But he accused Crawford, who, I guess batted after him, of course, of intentionally fouling off pitches so he couldn't steal bases. So he has a total of 2,961 hits in his career. What he did find out, which, he admitted after Ty Cobb had died, that Ty Cobb had wrote hundreds of letters trying to get him elected to the Hall of Fame. Now think about this, a guy with 2,961 hits, 309 triples, an awesome player, nicknamed Wahoo Sam, didn't even get, elected to the Hall of Fame until 1957. And after Ty Cobb had died, that's when they found all these letters that Ty had wrote to the Veteran Committee, kind of advocating for him. So, Ty Cobb was, kind of a rival, but he also knew he was a pretty good player, teammate. The next player is Mr. Tris Speaker there in the middle. Tris Speaker, the Gray Eagle was his nickname. 792 doubles, first in baseball. 3,514 hits, fifth in baseball. 345 lifetime average, that's sixth. He also, as an outfielder, he held some defensive stats, career records in assists, double plays, and unassisted double plays in the outfield. He holds record for all those. He was the first ever guy with 50 doubles, 50 steals in the same season. So as a youth, he fell from a horse, which I guess when he was younger, he was right-handed, but was forced to be left-handed after he fell off the horse. So he was part of also the $1 Million outfield with Duffy Lewis, Harry Hooper. So pretty famous player, Tris Speaker. Next is, somebody that's argued probably shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Roger Bresnahan, I guess is how you pronounce his name, the Duke of Tralee. His parents immigrated from Ireland, a place called Tralee, Ireland. So he was Christy Mathewson's catcher. So I guess that's worth something. And here's one thing, that I've noticed. The grade on this is a PSA 4. This is not a PSA 4. I mean, look at the back. How stained and beat up this is. You know, I've got one SGC 1s and 1.5s that are in better shape than this PSA 4. Whoever graded this, I wish I knew. I'd get them to grade all my cards. But, you know, buy the card, not the grade. This one here wasn't too high just because Mr. Bresnahan's not too highly regarded. But some of his contemporaries didn't even think he should be in the Hall of Fame. Some things about him, he was one of the first catchers who really challenged umps. They said he was highly strung and almost abnormally emotional. That's some of the quotes about him. In 1907, he was hit in the head by Reds pitcher Andy Oakley. A Catholic priest had already read him his last rites while he was unconscious. They thought he was dead. Was in the hospital for 10 days. And while he was in the hospital, he developed the schematics for the first plastic batting helmets. I guess that would motivate you to look into some kind of safety device. But I read a lot of different notes on him about the plastic helmets, padded mask, and shin guards. He was kind of one of the first guys to wear a lot of protective equipment, which, you know, that's a good thing. You know, we don't want people in the hospital for 10 days and thinking they're dying just because they got hit by a baseball. But, you know, he's kind of pushed that idea and took some ribbing, took some taunting from the other teams, but he was one of the first ones to wear safety gear. Roger Bresnahan. Got a string of Hassans here. They're just some of my older cars. Here in the middle, Mr. Eddie Collins, nicknamed Cocky. Awesome player for Athletics. So I think he's the second one from the left. I may be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure. Looks like him from all the pictures I've seen. Career 3,315 hits. Career 333 batting average. 745 stolen bases. He had 81 stolen bases in 1910. He does hold the major league record for 512 career sacrifice flies. He won the batting title. No, I'm sorry. He has the fewest home runs of anybody with 3,000 hits. I got ahead of myself a little bit. So if anybody's got 3,000 hits, he has the fewest home runs with 47. He's a very intelligent guy. Graduate of Columbia University. 6 World Series titles. Now look at this 1.5. You know, it's a little stained on the front. I'd much rather have the condition of this compared to that PSA 4 just showed you Roger Bresnahan. All right, moving on. Charles Cheif Bender. Indian name. Little spirit animal. Has 3 complete games in the World Series. That's pretty awesome. His record, 212 wins, 127 losses. Faced some criticism. His racism was kind of prevalent back then. Tried to make the best of it. Would a lot of times smile, you know, when he was facing that. Make a little crack back at him. Lifetime 2.46 ERA. Pretty awesome player. Cheif Bender. Over here on the left. And as you heard the card fall, it was Mr. Napoleon Lajoie. Not the card that, you know, he's famous for. Wish I had one of those. The short printed card. But this is a common card you can find different places. They made a red version and a blue version. it was in a card game. Several of those cards in a set, and you roll dice or some kind of thing and figure out if you got a base or a hit or sacrifice fly, infield hit, different things like that. Mr. Lajoie, the Frenchman, Nap Lajoie, 3,243 hits, 339 lifetime batting average. Went in as the second group. Wasn't the Immortals with the first group into the Hall of Fame, but he was the second. One time, and I couldn't find out if this was in the majors or in college or maybe minor leagues, but he recorded 163 hits in 80 games. That's a pretty hot streak. So that's pretty, get your eye on the ball when you're doing that. 163 hits in 80 games. One of the all-time greats. Next, Mr. Zach Wheat. This is a 1920 hand-cut strip card. Mr. Mangini's been talking here lately about he loves strip cards. Well, I do too. So this is a Zach Wheat. Blank back, of course, as all the strip cards were. Zach Wheat, nicknamed Buck, I guess Buckwheat, of course. You know, PSA 4, which is, it's hard to even get a grade on a strip card, which hand-cut cards, I don't even understand how it's even possible, you know. But some they do, some they grade authentic. It's just kind of the luck of the draw. So, 2,884 hits, 317 lifetime batting averages. Interesting fact, they said he had really tiny feet. It says size 5. I mean, said he had a lot of ankle injuries. Man, that's small feet. But, I mean, if he had size 10s, he probably had 3,800 hits. He had 2,800 hits with size 5 shoes. No. So, he won the 1918 batting title without hitting a home run. The only guy to have ever done that at the time, and was the only guy up until 1972 when Rod Carew won the batting title with no home runs. Baseball wasn't that lucrative back then. You know, he had a lot of jobs after he retired from baseball. You know, he opened a bowling alley, became a police officer, was elected by the Veterans Committee in 1957 to the Hall of Fame, but they found out it hadn't been a full 30 years, so he couldn't go again, so he was unanimously reelected in 1930. Or not 1930, I'm sorry, 1959, after it had been 34 years. 34 years. So, there you go, Mr. Zach Wheat. Now, I'm going to leave Zach Wheat up here to show you this next card. And maybe some of you guys that's got more of these strip cards can weigh in. This card here on top, it's a Walter Johnson, 1920. It's a W516, and Zach Wheat says it's a 520. And I'm thinking maybe the reason the Walter Johnson was authentic, I don't know if that's the original aged color of this card, or maybe the 516 was on a darker card stock than the 520, or maybe somebody tried to dye it to make it look older. But I've had this card, you know, since 2013. It was in original GAI slab, but GAI had some kind of hand cut, like penny sleeve for it, and it was in there crooked, and it was like bound up in there, so I didn't like the looks of it. So I cracked it, sent it to SGC. They sent it back ungraded, no explanation. So then I sent it to a third party to have them send it in for me, a bigger name known in the industry. Come back graded in A. It was a GAI 4, but it just looked horrible with the wrinkled up penny sleeve in there. So Walter Johnson holds a lot of records, maybe most nicknames. He went by Barney, the Big Train, Sir Walter, White Knight, General Johnson. Holds a baseball record, 110 shutouts. Career 2.17 ERA. 417 wins. 529 wins over 432 losses as a manager. Only pitcher with 400 wins and 3,500 strikeouts. He is one of the first 5 that went into the Hall of Fame, what's called the Immortals. Also has the most 3-pitch innings of any pitcher. 4. I thought it would be higher, or the record would be higher than that. But he has 4 innings on his career where he only pitched 4 innings where he only pitched 3 times. 3 outs, 3 pitches. It's pretty awesome. I seen one time in high school, it said he struck out 27 batters in 15 innings, extra inning games. So things are a little different now. Can you imagine nowadays a high school pitcher pitching 15 innings? So, and the last is going to be 2 of the same card, kind of like this card. At the time, it was about the only Babe Ruth I could afford. The Sinellas. One's a 5, one's a 3. I don't think I need to give you any stats on Babe Ruth. People pretty much know all there is to know about Babe Ruth. Awesome player. These cards have really went up. Used to be able to get 3s and 5s graded for about between $300 and $400. I got lucky. Bought them at the right time. This one I bought more recent. Had to pay more for it, but I've had this one for a little while where I didn't have to overpay for it too much. But that's, I heard them talk about the other night, buying out of fear. Lou Rock and them. There's several big cards I don't have. I don't have a DiMaggio. Don't have a Honus Wagner. Don't have a Garrick. Do they come down where I can afford them? Or do you just buy them before they go way up? It's crazy. So, well, that's a few 10 players I wanted to showcase. Depends on the reaction from the video. I might do some more videos on some other cards, but that's 10 players I wanted to showcase. Appreciate it, guys. Bye.